Is it time to panic? Let's find out. It's another edition of Southwest Bias.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
It's the Cardinals. Week 1 was so good at the start, and it faltered at the end. And, of course, I've got PHNX Cardinals great Brack here. Of course, if you missed the pregame, halftime, postgame, or the show afterwards, you can check all that out right here on PHNX Sports under PHNX Cardinals. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Bo, when I ask you what was the big story of the Cardinals Week 1 loss to the Buffalo Bills, you would say?
I would say your prize rookie getting one catch on 3 targets for 4 yards. Marvin Harrison Jr. That's the big one because what? People care about the most their own team, their fantasy football team. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a great performance, and the Arizona Cardinals had been kind of hiding Marvin Harrison Jr. up to that point, and you were expecting a little bit more of a coming out party, and we didn't get that. So I think people, there's a quiet confidence that they're going to get it right. Obviously, it's all there. 6'4" playmaker with great speed and a resume of dominating the college ranks. I think that people are just a little upset at the first performance, and they need to see something as early as week 2.
Yeah, it's tough when you have that anticipation building up, and of course, there's been a whole movement around Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, PHNX Cardinals being right at the center of that. It's really hard, and to be honest with you, it was unexpected as well. You didn't really expect to have Marv hit that, not a rookie wall, but have that hump to go over right off the start. You thought he would at least be targeted, involved in the offense. And not only was there a lack of targets, but also he had a drop as well. In fact, his only catch of the day coming right after that drop. But Cardinals fans, fantasy football fans, believers in Marvin Harrison Jr., some of them are worried. I know that you said there's a quiet confidence they're going to figure it out, but I feel like some people, they don't have faith in Kyler, or they don't have faith in the organization, and they feel like, is this something that's going to continue to happen throughout the season? Your first thought to that is?
No. Calm down. Get help. No, I mean, I know there are a lot of people that are always, pessimistic about things like that, and especially with this team. This team hasn't given you a whole lot to cheer for and consistently had wins. But, one thing that this team has historically had is, playmaking at the wide receiver position. And I think, what Marvin Harrison Jr. has in his past is not only a Hall of Fame father, Marvin Harrison Sr., but also, a collegiate career of his own that, put him as the consensus top wide receiver in a wide receiver rich draft. He separated himself, and unfortunately he wasn't able to separate himself on Sunday. There are a couple factors at play here, right? Obviously, play calling to what the defensive scheme was from the Buffalo Bills. And there was so much turnover as far as the Bills on the defensive side of the football. People expected them to kind of take a step back, but they did what they've been doing so far, at least that he did in 2023, is keeping the big play at bay and really keeping, outside receivers in the downfield passing game, a non-factor. And you're seeing it league-wide, but it still doesn't excuse one catch for 4 yards.
Right.
But, I think that the people that think, hey, this is just something that can't get on track as early as, next week, I think that the Cardinals are going to be out to prove them wrong.
All right, so I'm ringing Dr. Brack here, and I need you to diagnose something for me.
All right.
What was the problem on Sunday? Was it as simple as it was just the Bills playing good defense? Was it more the play calling? Was it more on Kyler or Marv? Was there a specific thing that stands out the most? Because obviously there are elements of every single one of those in there. But if you had to say the leading cause for this result, it would be
Josh Allen being elite against an undermanned pass rush. I mean, it's that simple. Josh Allen was a freight train
to
from
lead
hell.
to the Marv stuff.
Huh?
I'm talking about to Marv.
The Marv
I
stuff?
was very
sorry.
confused. I was like, I was so intrigued with where you were going.
Okay.
I'm talking about specifically with Marv. Oh, we'll get into the loss as a whole and everything.
Right.
But specifically with Marv, what would you attribute to that the most? Is it him? Is it Kyler? Is it play calling? Was it Bills defense?
It was game plan that they wanted to keep kind of they wanted to work the middle of the field. They knew where the strength of the Buffalo Bills defense was. And I think there was a little bit too smart for the room game planning going on there.
Yeah, I think what you saw a lot of from fans even throughout the game was, awesome, establish a run, give the ball to James Conner, that's great. But then a lack of use of your other weapons, kind of spreading that love around. Of course, Marvin Harrison leading the way with that. What do you think about the play? And you know what I'm
The
talking about.
infamous
Sorry,
screenshot?
Yeah, I'll change it. And not the play. The screenshot. Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, downfield, holding his arm out. NFL Twitter saying he's wide open. How could Kyler not hit him? That would have won him the game. Can you just debunk that for everybody?
Was there a more, especially social media polarizing player to have an infamous screenshot where it looked like he had a playmaker just wide open down the field, and then you just disregard what actually happened in that play where Kyler Murray comes out and his first read is Greg Dortch, right? And he pumps the Dortch, and then he goes to the complete opposite hash from where Marvin Harrison Jr. was. And then the only times that he's looking at Marvin Harrison Jr.'s way, it looks like there's a defender in the area until the defender realizes Kyler Murray probably can't make a play on that side of the field. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is streaking down the sidelines. And what people say, hey, if you just get him the ball, that's going to be a game-winning play. But it's, hey, throwing it across the entire field down about, 30, 40 yards? That's a Herculean, that's a Superman play. Not to say, like, we didn't see some great throws week one. We haven't seen great throws in the NFL. And guys are freaks and can do that. I just think that is a horrible example. It took on a life of itself without the benefit early on of the all-22 being able to see the entire field. It was I feel bad for it because I just don't think it represented what actually happens.
Yeah, I mean, Kyler had, I thought, a really good game. Not a perfect game, not an all-time great game, but I thought he had a good game.
He was 16 for 19, 130 and a touchdown with about 30 yards rushing in the first half. He had an amazing first half. He was dealing. So was the offense, and then things changed in the second half, and it wasn't a complete 60 minutes from the Cardinals quarterback.
Yeah, and, that's something that needs to be cleaned up going forward. Obviously, Marv as well, and we're going to talk about the defense on the other side of a break here in a second. But
I was already ready to talk about it.
I know. I know you've gotten in some battles, brother. I know that you're just excited that Johnny Venerable's not across from you right now.
Swung on
coming from your throat.
You don't even know.
Oh, I do know, and that's why I'm keeping my distance over here, not trying to make you too upset. But what I feel like is kind of being underrated in all of this is obviously, we talk about preseason ball not being that important, but they didn't get any reps together, Kyler or Marv, or Kyler really any reps at all, Marv really any reps at all. It's also week one against a tough opponent on the road. I don't think a lot of people believe that the Cardinals will win this game because the last Southwest Bias I did with Damon Dog, the People's producer, we had lots of Bills fans in the comments saying Cards aren't even going to hang. You guys are just stupid. You guys are idiots. Blah 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 blah. Saying, how dare you think the Cardinals are going to actually be in this?
Like they were dead wrong in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked. Surprise, surprise. Some score predictions were right, but there were a lot of people saying the Cardinals had no chance, right? And obviously, you look at a second half collapse. You don't want to see that. You look at the pass rush. You don't want to see that. You look at Marv's stat line. You don't want to see that. But at the end of the day, the Cardinals were dominating in that first half, at least right until that very end. They looked cohesive. They looked together, but they didn't look perfect. And to me, there's that room for improvement and room for growth. And it almost feels like some people are treating the expectations of this team a little too high. Not that I feel like you should just completely throw your hands up because it's a quote unquote rebuilding year, but you were toe to toe with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, the league's best touchdown scorer quarterback, really good team that's probably going to win their division and has a chance to go deep in the playoffs. That's an okay debut, right? There's a lot of stuff you could work on, but that's not like grounds to freak out.
Sure. I mean, look, there was what we perceived as vulnerabilities for the Bills, and they were the opportunity win was there, and they didn't get the dub. I think that's 100% facts right there. But if you put it in perspective, a team coming off 4 wins, a rework roster in year 2 of a rebuild, and they're sitting there and they're in this heavyweight fight with Josh Allen and crew, then I think that's commendable. But at the same time, people are sick of losing, and they see the franchise quarterback who's matched up with a top draft pick, and they expect them to be able to get the job done. And when they see that, that draft pick had 1 catch for 4 yards and their quarterback may have missed him on a big play, maybe a game-winning play, you can understand the frustration. But no, I agree. Like, there's some positives to take away from this. It's not without, a lot of red flags. And this is going to be a flawed team. As I mentioned, this is just year 2 of this thing. And you're going to have to take the good with the bad. But we saw, I think, a lot of things to build off for this Arizona Cardinals team, especially offensively, going into week 2. Here's where things could really go awry, right? the connection between Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison doesn't materialize in week 2 as well, and then the Bills maybe play poorly in week 2 as well.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, it's week 1 in the NFL season. There's going to be a lot of games that you look back on and say, well, that just certainly didn't make sense. And now you do kind of hope that the Bills go on some sort of rampage over the next at least 3 to 4 weeks and just establish
the
themselves.
Greatest team in the history of football.
Right. And the Cardinals competed week 1. And we're going to talk about some of those red flags. It's not easy to go on the road week 1. Kyler's back for a full season. You have a rookie who has so many expectations. Like, it's not easy to go in and play a perfect game, but it is easy when you want to get new flooring, when you use Empire today, because the words easy, quick, and convenient are fantastic. But it's not just those things. It's the fact that they are going to get you the best quality of service with that as well. They're not going to put floors in your home that they wouldn't put in their own. And part of that goes with not guaranteeing you're just going to find the downright cheapest price. Listen, sometimes you just want to save money. Sometimes you just don't want to spend a lot. I'm that way. I know everybody is that way. But when it comes to an investment like flooring, you cannot be that way. This is not something you can get wrong. This is not something that you can just put, we'll put a little bit of money into and hope for a lot of money results. That's just not what happens, because you use your floor every day, and that drop off in quality is quite significant. Another thing you don't want to do is pick the wrong flooring for your home, right? Bo, imagine you're redoing the floors in your home and you have this idea of what it will look like in your head. You think it's going to match. You go through the installation process. You get all of that figured out. You pay the money. It all gets there. And then you look at it and you go, well, I thought it would look a little different than that. I mean, you don't want that, right? But with a virtual floor visualizer.
Have you been watching my nightmares?
I know. That's my nightmare. That's literally my nightmare. If you don't want to live that nightmare, you can use their virtual floor visualizer, and you can see how those floors would look in your home. They have free in-home estimates, easy, convenient shop-at-home service, and you can schedule one of those free in-home estimates today. Plus, all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHNX, so you could still save a little money with Empire today. Some restrictions do apply, but see empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. You mentioned earlier that there were a lot of red flags from that week 1 game, not to be unexpected with a team in the Cardinals position. So we talked about the big major one and Marvin Harrison Jr. In your personal opinion, not social media's opinion, not storyline, was that the biggest red flag to come out of week 1, or was there something else?
No, because with the confidence, like, hey, you've got somebody that you know is going to figure it out at the NFL level. Look, just look at it across a lot of great receivers. First game, second game, stat line, Justin Jefferson comes to mind, where he had 3 targets, 6 combined in his first 2 games, and then he broke out in weeks 3 and 4. And, I think that the same expectation, like if we're sitting here going into week 5 and Marvin Harrison continues to struggle, then we got a big problem on our hands. And then you can start to sound the alarms. But until that happens, if he goes into week 2 and he doesn't produce, and the team doesn't emphasize getting him the football, then we can have that conversation. But you shouldn't. We talked to Jonathan Gannon yesterday. He said Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be perfectly fine because it's an incredible skill set. The size, the speed, the athleticism match with an incredible work ethic. And I think you got all parties involved looking to find a solution.
Well, if it ain't Marv, then what is it, Bo?
I mean, you could talk about, like, I have to push back on this because I host a show with crazy people. But I think that as far as, I agree, the pass rush is an issue. Like 12% pass rush rim weight is, it's by far the lowest in the league. You can contribute some of that to Josh Allen just being a freight train from hell, right? But you got to contain him. And the opportunities that you had to get him on the turf, you missed out on him. I know there was one bad luck penalty that was called on Zaven Collins where it should have been a sack.
Tough, dude. That was tough.
It might have been the difference in the game because that puts them, instead of, behind the 50-yard line, it puts them deep into the Cardinals territory and they score a touchdown before half and get the ball outside of the locker room. But look, even if you add that play, was it enough? You got to be able to manufacture pass rush. And we know what the odds are against this team without B.J. Ojulari, without Darius Robinson, the 27th overall pick on the interior of the defensive line. Do you have the personnel to do that, to generate that? I understand the people that are skeptical of that. I just don't know, at this point, 1 week into the season, where you're going to be able to go remedy that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, we did a Southwest bias on this before. Obviously, me, you, and Espo kind of went back and forth at it, talking about Hassan Reddick. And
Right.
I think that's just, it's almost the crutch name at this point. Not that I think it's technically a bad idea, but it does feel like that's just what people resort to.
Jets haven't made him available.
Right. And I think it's something where I do see the value in making a move, making whatever it is. Now, I'm not a football expert like Bo Brock, so maybe I can't sit up here and reel off a list of names. I know ball, but I wouldn't say I'm on Bo Brock's ball knowing level.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
I got you what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying?
But look, you're going to have to be patient with this. And that's, the reality of the situation. It's year 2 of the rebuild. And like you focused on premium positions in draft 1, get a left tackle. Paris Johnson Jr. is fantastic.
He had a great, that's a major green flag. That's something that you needed to see out of him is he absolutely dominated.
And what else did you get out of that trade by trading down, giving the Texans the ability to get Will Anderson Jr.? And sure, he would have been nice for your pass rush, but you got looks like a franchise left tackle. You added Darius Robinson with the 27th overall pick, which was the Houston pick, and multiple day 2 picks. So that you're already starting to see how that's impacting your rebuild. You just can't rebuild every position all at once. And this is a draft and develop team. So even when they've got the free agent cap dollars, they're not just going to go out there and throw money at a 30-year-old over-the-hill, free agent like the previous regime and kick the tires just in case the guy could be productive. And also they don't want to, stand in the way of developing these players that they've drafted over the last 2 off seasons.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at before, where I was talking about Hassan Reddick being the crutch, and you're throwing out one name, and one name would help and would make it look better. Absolutely, no doubt in my mind. But it wouldn't completely
what
fix
does your
the
pass
problem.
rush win rate look like? 12?
That's what I'm
15
saying.
then?
15, right? That's
18?
and so that's
still
where
last in the league.
That's where I do agree with you, where there are people who are looking this as some quick fix by the end of the season. If Monty Ossenfort makes some sort of move, then it's done. It's fixed. It's over. We don't have to worry about this anymore. No, the defensive line needs an absolute complete makeover. It doesn't just need, hey, one extra player, unless that player is Aaron Donald, right? And last I saw, he's napping on his couch on Sunday, so that ain't happening. So I think that it's one of those things where you look at this defensive line and hopefully you can get some of the injuries that you reeled off, some of those players back, but also you hope you can see growth and improvement with some of these guys as well.
Have to.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, right? Or else you're not going to win football games. What do we expect out of this team? High-scoring offense, high-scoring defense, right? And so far that's holding true, and maybe the offense left something to be desired in that second half, but if they had an equally as good second half offensively as they did in the first half, then the defense wouldn't be as big of a problem because they would have won that game. They would have done enough. And like you mentioned, there's that penalty on Zaven as well. I think another big red flag for people that really worried them was Drew Petzing's play calling. At least that's what I saw from a lot of people complaining, and not just when it came to Marv, but kind of overall philosophy, especially at the end of the game, some of the decisions made. Do you agree, see where they're coming from, or do you feel like that's kind of grasping for straws?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an overreaction. I mean, I think that obviously, everybody would agree that the lack of involvement with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson outside of his one catch for a 5-yard touchdown, like the outside passing game, like you got to get those guys more involved. They'll tell you that. And I think Petzing will tell you that this was a offense, especially in the first half, that was efficient, and they went 3 for 3 on scoring drives. They were like prolonged 13, 10, and 13 play scoring drives. So, if you're asking for perfection in year 2 of a rebuild, you're not going to get that. But does it need to get better? Does it need to continue to develop? Absolutely, from a second year play caller, no doubt about it. But to say like, hey, this is, the sole reason they lost the game. They also gave up 34 points in this game.
Right. I think that all you need to see from the Cardinals going forward is improvement. Yeah. Right. And now you've got week 2. You're taking on the Rams. Presumably,
you gotta win. I think
it's presumed a worse opponent than
It is a
Buffalo.
worse opponent. And look, I mean, talk about the pass rush and the inability to generate it. It can't happen this week. Like it's not Josh Allen out there who's going to be, if he gets out and he can extend plays and then make big plays, explosives in the run game and the pass game. That's not Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford can make big time throws, absolutely, but a little bit more statuesque, and that's not anything that people don't know. But they are ravaged already on the offensive line. Absolutely just gutted already, and you're going to have to be able to show up and you're going to have to get production from your front seven on that you weren't able to get in week 1 and week 2.
And you can only hope, right? And that's the type of thing where you're in the situation, and that's what you've been saying about this pass rush as well. Is I think there needs to be some sort of reality check. Might be a little bit harsh, but there was a lot of offseason hope and hype for this team, and you can look at different building blocks, whether it is Kyler, whether it is Marvin. And I'm not saying that I've been immune to that. I definitely thought that the Cardinals are going to be better, and I still think they're going to be better than what a lot of national media believe they will be.
Yeah,
I think that Marv will be a lot better than what he showed. And I think even Kyler is going to be a lot better than what he showed in week 1 as well. It just takes time, right? And it's hard because you want that instant gratification. You want them to go out there and win now.
So much losing.
It's
right?
so much.
Yeah.
And that's a big
it's
point
like
as well.
Sins of your predecessors. You're feeling that because of what the situation you were put in or that you adopted.
Mm-hmm. But if you look at Monty though, like the type of rebuild that Monty's trying to pull off has been a patient one. There's never been an ounce of, well, I'm going to make a move to make us win now. Right. It's always been, hey, what's the best move for us long-term and in the future? And you're right. You are paying for the sins of your predecessors. You're paying for the sins of all the losing, even just before the previous regime. Like throughout your franchise history, obviously there's been high moments. There's been Super Bowl appearance and everything, but this has not been a
lot of low moments.
Yeah, this has not been a franchise where you can look back and say, hey, remember all those really great times that we had together. And now you do feel like you have the right people leading. You do feel like you have the right game plan, but it's hard to sit back and think to yourself, okay, but I want it now. I want to see it now. I want them to trade for somebody now. I want them to go and put themselves in a position to compete now. But you made a good point earlier, then you are falling in that same trap that Steve Keim fell in. And there was that great 11 games, man.
Yeah.
Great 11 games. And then the wheels fell off because you put too many chips in your basket and you just...
But that's not just you admitting that this is a season that you don't have expectations to win, right? But the rest of the team, as we sit here and we can point to, A, B, and C as reasons why they lost this game. You've got to show in the other areas that you improve this football team, and also the area that you identified as your strength, the offensive side of the ball. They need to prove, not only just by their performance, but by winning games. Like when they have the ball in their hand and they can go down for the game-winning score and leave little to no time on the clock. You're going to have to do that a couple times this season in order to kind of make the case to go out there and give up some of the precious assets that they want to utilize in this rebuild.
We'll see, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's only week 1. And it was a tough opponent. You were on the road, early morning game. I mean, at least from your body clock perspective over there, it wasn't as early. We will see. And every step along the way, it's going to be the PHNX Cardinals crew that are going to be there for you. Again, pregame, halftime, postgame shows for every single game. We have a tailgate out at Chicken and Pickle for week 2. On Sunday, I will be there. It will be a good, fun time. We're going to do tons of tailgates at Chicken and Pickle. It is going to be fun times, whether maybe they overachieve, underachieve, or just achieve. No matter what happens. You're going to want to
be there, part of the Red Sea. You're going to want to be there, of course, because it's powered by our friends over at Sanderson Ford.
Of course.
And we got great giveaways from great companies like Pit Boss. You're going to want to take advantage of that.
Get some free stuff. Come have some fun. Come eat some good food and come watch some football. I don't really know how much better your Sunday can get than that. But maybe you want to rewatch this on Sunday. That's how it can get better. And if you want to do that and you want to miss no edition of Southwest Bias going forward, make sure you subscribe to PHNX Sports. It's that red button right underneath this video in case you didn't know. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button as well. For all of you listening on audio, too, I know we're in the Cardinals feed right now. We're in the Southwest Bias feed. You make sure that you rate that 5 stars and you say, I love Bo Brock more than anything. I need to see legitimate 5-star reviews saying, I love Bo Brock more than I love my partner. That's it. That's all I need to see. That's all I'm asking for. Okay?
That's heavy.
And if we do that, Bo will replace me, and he'll continue on another edition of Southwest Bias. We'll see you guys later this week.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
We all silly like the mayor.